What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a good one. Today I'm here at Juno Beach. Looks can be really deceiving. It's a really beautiful beach, but on June 6, 1944, that morning, this was the second bloodiest beach to be assaulted by the Allies, second only, of course, to Omaha Beach. This was attacked by the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division, and defending this beach were elements of the 716th German Infantry Division. This sector that I'm standing on right now is called Mike Sector. Down far in that direction at the westernmost end of the beach was assaulted by C Company of the Canadian Scottish. Right next to them was D Company of the Canadian Winnipeg Rifles. And pretty much right in front of me was attacked by B Company of the Winnipeg Rifles. And they had a very tough time coming up this beach. This is probably one of the most unique looking bunkers here in Normandy and on the Atlantic Wall. This was, of course, assaulted by B Company of the Winnipeg Rifles. And like I said before, they had an incredibly tough time coming up this beach. They actually were taking enemy fire about 700 yards offshore. So by the time they actually were disembarking on the beach itself, they were under direct fire. They were pinned down on the beach until they were able to get tank support from the 1st Hussars. Then the 1st Hussars weren't even deployed until 6 minutes after the first men reached the beach. So they were pinned down on the beach for quite a minute until the first tanks were able to reach the beach, and they were finally able to move up and take this strong point. And by the end of the day, B Company of the Winnipegs lost 78% of its combat effectiveness. So I'm sitting here in a German bunker not too far from WN29, and sitting in something like this really gives you the impression that the Germans were pretty much ready for anything that the Allies were going to throw at them. When you hear statistics like B Company of the Winnipegs losing 78% of their men that day, it really goes to show the fierce tenacity that the Germans had in their defense of this beach. I'm standing in WN29 right now, another one of those sinking, tilted bunkers here on Juno Beach. There is evidence of the hard fighting that took place here. Got some bullet holes and some ricochet marks. This area of the beach is called Nan Green. Nan Green was assaulted by the Regina Rifles. Right in front of this strong point is where A Company of the Regina Rifles landed, and they pretty much immediately came under fire, as is most of the case with companies landing here on the first wave of D-Day. While B Company was to their left, and they were able to skirt around behind this strong point and get into the village beyond fairly quickly. A Company was given the task of taking out this strong point. With the support of B Squadron of the 1st Hussars amphibious tanks, they were able to take out this strong point. This did hold an 88mm gun, and there was a 75mm gun also in this vicinity. But with the support of those tanks, A Company was able to take the strong point out and move into the village beyond. I'm sitting right now near the remnants of the fortification WN28 here at Nan White sector of Juno Beach. This is the sector of beach where the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada made their assault on the morning of June 6, 1944. Now, A Company was just a couple hundred yards in that direction, in front of what's now known as Canada House, while B Company was directly behind me in front of this fortification, and they lost about half of their men coming up this beach. And because they were out without armored support, it became an infantry job to take this village of Bernier-sur-Mer. And so 3 men from that company, a lieutenant, a lance corporal, and a rifleman, took the initiative, climbed this seawall, using their Sten guns and their grenades, were able to clear these fortifications of Germans, thus allowing B Company and the remnants of A Company to remove themselves or extricate themselves from the beach and move inland towards Bernier-sur-Mer and their objectives for the day. So the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada that landed at this section, Nan White of Juno Beach, did so at 8:12 in the morning. And while they did suffer significant casualties, they were able to clear the German defenses and move into this town of Bernier-sur-Mer by 9 a.m. thanks to reinforcements in the form of C Company and D Company of the Queen's Own, as well as the 10th Armored Regiment known as the Fort Garry Horse. So with the reinforcements, they were able to move inland, and actually the Queen's Own Rifles reached their D-Day objective, the town of, I think it's pronounced Annecy, I think that's how you pronounce it. And they were the only Allied unit that day to reach their assigned objective. This right here is Canada House, a very, very iconic spot here on the Normandy coast and at Juno Beach. This is a very cool plaque, and I wanted to read it to you guys. It says, "This house was liberated at first light on D-Day, June 6, 1944, by the men of the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada, who were the first Canadians to land on this beach. It may very well have been the first house on French soil liberated by seaborne Allied forces. Within sight of this house, over 100 men of the Queen's Own Rifles were killed or wounded in the first few minutes of the landing." So if you turn around directly here, it's a very hard scene to recreate in your head. So like I mentioned earlier, the assault on Juno Beach was the second bloodiest on D-Day next to Omaha Beach. The Canadians that landed here suffered a total of around 1,200 casualties. While some units like the Queen's Own Rifles were able to reach their D-Day objective, the overall 3rd Canadian Infantry Division's objective of the Cap de Quai airfield, which is just north of Caen, was not reached on D-Day. In fact, it wasn't reached until about a month later. So another testament to the fierce fighting that took place all around this area in Normandy. And while we look at this beach today, we gotta give some love to our Canadian cousins because they did a remarkable job here.